am personally pleased to see a full crowd here. Somehow earlier today when the winds were 50 miles an hour, I wouldn't have come out for tonight, so I'm really thrilled to see you all. Welcome, welcome. I am Marcia Marins. I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Chautauqua County, and I'll be your moderator for tonight's Meet the Candidates Forum. This event is sponsored by the League of Women Voters, and we are a trusted, nonpartisan, but political organization. Our members do the hands-on work to safeguard democracy, and while we never endorse candidates or political parties, we are deeply engaged in the issues that shape strong, healthy communities. If you are interested in learning more about how you can get involved, I encourage you to pick up information available here tonight or visit our website at lwvchautauqua.org or lwv.org. We've gathered a long list of questions to ask the candidates so you can get to know them better and make an informed decision when you vote in the primary and on Election Day in November. A debate is one of the few events left where the candidates do not have control, which is why we think they are very important. Debates contribute to the information about candidates that voters can obtain in a different way than a more scripted campaign. We have not given the candidates these questions in advance, except the first one, and you can ask them by card, by writing on a card, any issues that you care about, and they will respond unscripted so you can see how well they think on their feet, so to speak. Tonight's forum features candidates in the Democratic primary seeking to represent New York in the United States House of Representatives, and we have Aaron Gies and Kevin Stocker. Or is it Stoker?
Stocker.
Stocker, all right. Our goal is to help voters better understand where each candidate stands on the issues and that matter to this region. Candidates will have 1 minute to respond to a question they received prior to this meeting and include a brief presentation discussing their qualifications. After the opening statements, candidates will have the ability to question one another, and members of the audience will be urged to ask written questions of any candidates or both candidates. Each candidate will have equal time to respond to questions. Timekeeper, or ers, there are two of you, yes, will enforce limits to ensure fairness and keep us on schedule. A couple of rules. Opening and closing statements are 1 minute each. Responses are limited to 60 seconds. Follow-up rebuttals are 30 seconds, and only one rebuttal will be permitted. Please keep answers concise and focused on the question. No interruptions. You both have an opportunity to speak. Each candidate will now have 1 minute. Each candidate will now have 1 minute to answer this question. I don't know, Mary, did you say who goes first? Mr. Stocker, okay. How would you describe your qualifications and experience that make you well suited to serve as representative? We'll begin with Mr. Stocker.
Thank you. I always prefer being called Kevin. My experience for 35 years as a litigator, taking on not only my clients' cases, usually against insurance companies that have betrayed them, but also taking on some of the biggest cases in Western New York, whether it was Tonawanda Coke, Amagon Crematory, that were putting toxins in the air, and where I live was giving cancer to Western New York at alarmingly high rates. Whether it was the city of Buffalo, already 30 seconds, whether it was the Catholic Church to protect future children from harm. I'm definitely going to have to speak a lot faster. My town halls go about 3 hours long.
This is why this is important.
Structure.
Give him back 2 seconds. Are you finished?
I'm finished.
All right. Mr. Gies.
I saw the sign.
So again, Aaron is fine for me, if we want to use first names like, but doctor if we're doing titles. So my qualifications. My name is Dr. Aaron Gies. I am a professor at St. Bonaventure University. I've spent my life in nonprofit service. And you know, in my profession, we don't ask the same questions that people do, most of the people who serve in Congress. Congress has a lot of lawyers in it, and lawyers ask the question, how do we get away with it? Or more friendly, how do we make an argument for it? A lot of business people ask, how do we make money on it? Or, since it's the government, how do we lose money at an acceptable rate? In my profession, we ask, is it good? Does it help people? Is it true? Can we prove it? I think we could use more people in Congress who are asking that question.
Thank you, both our candidates. We will now move into a question portion of the forum. Some questions were prepared in advance and may include topics submitted by the audience during and prior to this evening. So our first question, Western New York continues to face population loss and economic challenges. What specific federal policies would you champion to attract jobs and retain residents in this region? We'll begin with Mr. Gies.
So in Western New York, we've had, for example, here in Chautauqua County, 20 years of job and population losses, 12,000 jobs lost and about as many people. And during that whole time, we've had Republican rule in the county. And we've had a Republican for almost all of that time in Congress as well. The federal policy that we need first and foremost is for our federal representative to be a partner to the state, county, and local officials instead of an absentee or even an antagonist. When we go beyond that, we basically have two choices for industrial development. Do we try to bring in big smokestacks to bring hundreds or thousands of jobs, knowing they may leave as soon as their tax deal is over? Or do we try to give small businesses and entrepreneurs everything they need to succeed and take all of the stumbling blocks out of their way? My emphasis is on that side. So I would be interested in working with the Small Business Administration and with our state, county, and local officials to make sure that our small business owners
Thank you.
have everything they need. Thank you.
I was going to let you finish, but you had to see that. Mr. Stoker.
Correct. Thank you. Quickly, attorneys are fighters for their clients. You're the future bosses. I'll be fighting for you. That's in response to Aaron's last answer. With respect to the economy, we're in a war with billionaires. Government is run by billionaires. We need to take back our government to stimulate the economy. We need to turn the ship 180 degrees. We need to stop the wars. We need to get the costs of living down, such as utilities, groceries, any health insurance. We need to, the direction we're going in with wars and tariffs, BlackRock and Goldman Sachs says we're heading to a recession. In order to stimulate the economy, whether it's around the country or here in the southern tier, we need to change the direction this country's going in. We need to invest. I've learned by doing my town halls in the southern tier, they do not want data centers. You're the boss. I would fight for that.
Thank you very much. Our next question. I It's a strange noise I'm hearing out the side. Okay. What actions would you take to protect water quality, prevent shoreline erosion, and support long-term investment in Lake Erie and surrounding waterways? We'll begin with Mr. Stocker.
Sure. My career has been based on fighting for communities, people such as yourself, and I would cite Tonawanda Coke and Amagon Crematory, which I brought up before, that were putting toxins in the air. There is nothing more important than our air, our water, our land, and we need to protect that. The example you get from me is a leadership where I'm not bought and paid for by party bosses. Tonawanda Coke, they were given millions of dollars to the top of both sides of the aisle, all the way from Congress, all the way down to our local mayors and supervisors. When I took on Tonawanda Coke, they wanted to take me to the woodshed and say, you can't do that. They wanted me to take money and turn my back on a community. You're going to get somebody that fights to protect you and do what's right.
Mr. Gies.
Certainly. So Kevin is right that our air and water and our data and our privacy are resources that belong to the people of Western New York and the Southern Tier, and not to billionaires or the large companies that they lead. They are precious resources, and it is very important that we resist exploitative development like these data centers that have been proposed for Portland or Genesee County or now Tonawanda that pollute our air and water and don't produce very much benefit for the local economy, particularly in terms of jobs. This is an old story. We've all heard it before. Instead, we need to invest in the things that make this area great, things that actually feed our local ecosystems, like responsible agriculture, like tourism. These things can help us to be sustainable for the long term.
Just as a follow-up, do you support continued or increased federal funding for Great Lakes restoration efforts? Mr. Gies.
I do. I also think it's important that we work on restoring the endangerment finding that was recently undermined by the Trump administration that takes away the designation of greenhouse gases as a threat to human health, because they are a threat to human health, and we need to move towards renewables in our power grid in order to draw down on fossil fuel generation.
Yes, thank you. Not only would I fight to increase spending to protect the environment, but take on increases for Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, health care, public education, everything that the billionaires got their tax breaks and our elected officials betrayed the voters, especially in the Southern Tier, with the health care cuts that are coming. I would fight not only for the environment, but to reverse all those cuts and increase things such as Social Security.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to infrastructure. So, as we all know, many New York communities are dealing with aging roads, bridges, and water systems. Not a surprise here, right? What would be your top infrastructure priorities, and how would you ensure smaller communities receive funding? Mr. Stocker.
My time spent in Europe, coming back here to the States, we are embarrassingly behind when it comes to technology and investing in our infrastructure. We have to catch up with the rest of the world. In my opinion, we have to tax the billionaires fairly, and we have to invest in our country. We have to bring this country where it belongs. I talk about we need to turn the ship 180 degrees and define what it means to be a decent American, which means take care of those here at home, not only infrastructure-wise, but and also around the world. What is going on right now? This country is an embarrassment given the leadership currently. The reason why I'm wearing my tan suit today, I want to honor President Obama, who you never saw scandal, corruption, you saw intelligence, you saw caring, integrity, and his biggest scandal was wearing the tan suit.
But we were talking about infrastructure,
and I answered
we went to Obama.
Yes.
Please stay on topic.
I answered infrastructure and added more.
Mr. Gies.
Fredonia's water situation is a travesty. And you are not alone. There are so many communities across Western New York and the Southern Tier that are struggling with outdated water systems where the sanitary sewer and the storm sewer were mixed together as they were built when this place was a frontier 150 years ago. And they are not ready for the way that we need to use our water systems now. At the same time, 80% of federal transportation dollars are allocated to highways, not maintaining highways, new highways. We don't need new highways here. We need our roads, our secondary roads, our city roads to be maintained. We need our sewer systems to be restored. We need other ways to get around, like sidewalks and railways. There's no way to get around except for a car. If we really want to prepare ourselves to develop for the future, to make it possible to have a good life you can afford here, we have to diversify what we mean by investment in infrastructure at the federal level and get those dollars here.
Thank you very much. How will you appeal to younger voters? And what are your top three? It says top 3 concerns, but I think that's another question. So let's just say, how will you appeal to younger voters? Mr. Gies.
Certainly. So when I speak to younger voters, you have to deal with the fact that if you're turning 18 this year, you don't remember a world where President Trump wasn't at the center of our politics. And so why? Why would you want to be involved in politics? It's a way to lose friends and alienate people and make yourself into some kind of weirdo. Young people are dealing with a level of despair that those of us who are older cannot really imagine. They're in despair about their economic future, they're in despair about the climate, they're in despair about their ability to form relationships mediated by the internet. So, talking about the need to restore America, or save America, or bring it back to the way it was when I was a kid, or turn the ship around, that does not work. You have to talk to young people and talk about accountability and transparency and a healthy environment and positive development and hope like they are new things, because for young people, they are.
Thank you. Mr. Stocker.
Thank you. With reaching out to the young people, I do a mixture of old school and new school. New school is my friend Des over there, University of Michigan, wide receiver. We do reels on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram. But I also do the old school, just like I do for our good folks here today. I write them letters. I give them my home phone number. I tell them, you're my boss. And I follow up with phone calls. They've been so amazed that somebody picks up the phone, that returns the phone call. I give them my home phone number. They laugh when you call because they don't expect it. We talk about creating new opportunities for their future, the economic hardships that not only you all face, but they're facing. We talk about how to get into housing and how to advance and increase their responsibilities in life. We talk about AI and how it's going to change the landscape and how to get out in front and ride the wave of. So with the younger people, we talk about raising a family and the cost of diapers, childcare, formula. So we do a lot of those things and connect with them. Thank you.
Okay. What changes would you advocate for in federal policy, such as the Farm Bill, to better support farmers and rural communities in this region? We'll begin with Mr. Stocker.
Thank you. That's been part of my education, coming down and doing town halls in the Southern Tier. I've met dairy farmers. I've had people call me at home that were farmers. I hear the same message over and over. The small farmers being left out. They need help. I've listened to the farmers talk about record suicide rates, record bankruptcies, and yet some farmers talk about doubling down and supporting Trump again. Tariffs are causing a lot of these problems. Our economy is causing a lot of these problems. We need to support our farmers, especially the small farmers, and I believe we can feed the world. We don't put caps on feeding people. Let's feed all the poor. Let's feed the world. Let's prop our little farmers up and let them prosper financially.
Thank you. Mr. Gies.
I am on the board of a small farm, and I have been listening to farmers in Chautauqua County, where there's lots of farms, and elsewhere. Here are some things that I have a problem with in the Farm Bill. The SOB Act, which further empowers the 3 big pork slaughterhouses, to continue to monopolize our system and undercut the prices for small farmers. That should not be in the Farm Bill, but it is. There's no protection for our grape farmers if they suffer due to a wholesale buyer pulling out of the market. They get protection if, for example, they're attacked by a pest, but not by some kind of economic force from above. Pennsylvania is working to change that. New York should too. Right to repair. It is unconscionable that my friends in Allegheny County should have to trailer their new tractors to Syracuse every time there's a problem because they're not allowed to fix it themselves. Finally, family farmers need affordable health care. So many of them are working off farm just so they can have insurance. It's unacceptable, and if we want family farms to be sustainable, we need to do that.
Thank you. Please, audience, do me a favor, save your applause for the end, because it's taking up time that we don't really want to hear your clapping. We want to hear from these guys. So you mentioned health care, Mr. Gies. Health care costs are crushing a lot of working families, even people who already have insurance. Do you believe the answer is some form of universal government-run health care, or do you think there's a better way to fix the system, and what changes would you support?
There is no better way to fix the system. That is the best way to fix the system. There are certainly things that you could do that fall short of that we should do. So on day one, the next Congress can and should restore the ACA subsidies that are causing our healthcare system to lose its stability. We need fundamental reform, but unless we do something to prop up our hospitals, clinics, and nursing homes, many of them are going to close before we can do that. And we've already started to see that here in Chautauqua County with the closing of Absolute Care in Westfield, BRMC across the border for Cattaraugus County. So universal single-payer health care, I believe, is the way to go. And honestly, I think we have a shot with the next president because the Trump administration has so thoroughly broken our healthcare system, and they have no plan. I know a family of 3 that is paying $39,000 a year for basic health insurance coverage, just the right to get sick. It's unacceptable, and we can do better.
Thank you.
Mr. Stocker.
I had an elderly woman call me the other night at home. Her husband's a Vietnam veteran and has brain cancer. They've been cut off from their health care. She doesn't know what to do. They can't afford health care. I believe we need to get rid of the insurance companies. We need to turn to where the government negotiates with medical providers. I want the providers to earn a good living. I want us to all have tests so we can find cancer early and defeat cancer. Nobody should go bankrupt from getting cancer. I want young mothers who have new babies to have access to all tests to make sure that their babies are healthy and grow up healthy. So I would support, if you're going to make America great, you invest in your country's health. And I believe that should be universal health care.
Thank you. Assuming with your election your party gains the majority in Congress, what tangible difference do you see in New York 23 in 10 years compared to the trajectory we have been on for the last several decades? Mr. Stocker.
The trajectory, well, it's got to go better than what's currently direction. I said earlier, we have to turn the ship 180 degrees. We're heading to a recession. We're alienating all our trading partners. We are playing into the hands of China. China will be the greatest superpower in the world. When just looking at Canada alone, When you alienate Canada and disrespect our great neighbor, one product, boycott of whiskey, cost this country $1 trillion. Just that alone. We have to head in a different direction, rebuild our trading partners. You don't threaten Canada, Greenland, Mexican, Cuba, Venezuela, Iran. Enough of that. Leadership, worldwide peace, and prosperity, that would help the District 23.
Thank you. Mr. Gies.
Certainly. First, you should see lower costs. On day one, the next Congress, besides restoring those ACA subsidies, must roll back Trump's tariffs, which belong to Congress and are an illegal tax on the American people, and move to pass a war powers resolution to stop the illegal war in Iran, which is driving up our gasoline costs. In the longer term, I think that we can make sane, intelligent infrastructure investments in this part of the state. Right? We have so long put all of our eggs in the basket of extractive industry, whether it's that's fracking or whether it was Tonawanda Coke a long time ago. We need to invest in infrastructure that looks forward. Things like new rail service, things like alternatives to driving, things like renewable energy. Third, you should see better democratic response. You should see fair maps. You should see money out of politics. This is what the next Democratic Congress can and must try to accomplish. Because if America is going to be a democracy, we have to take away the power from the billionaires and give it back to the people.
Thank you very much. Critics of the SAVE Act warn that married women, seniors, rural residents, and low-income voters could face barriers if their identification documents do not match their current legal names. How would you balance election security with protecting voter access? Mr. Gies.
So the Save America Act is nothing less than a voter suppression law, masquerading as a voter ID law. And popular support for it is overblown by the Republicans and means that the folks don't really understand what's going on here. So yes, it would absolutely disenfranchise women. It would disenfranchise other folks who may have changed their names for some reason or another. It would disenfranchise folks that have moved. And so instead, what should we do to keep our elections secure? First of all, we should recognize that illegal immigrants do not vote in American elections. It doesn't happen. The Heritage Foundation did a study. The far-right Heritage Foundation found that this has only happened a few times in the last 25 years, and we know because those folks were prosecuted. So our election ID is pretty good. Honestly, it's pretty good. Real ID, which is coming to all 50 states, I think is sufficient for our elections to be secure as long as we keep soldiers away, federal soldiers away from polling places.
Thank you. Mr. Stocker.
It is apparent, I think, to everybody in this room what's going on in this country. The Republican agenda is trying to suppress my friends of color, suppress women's rights to vote, gerrymandering, which goes back to Tammany Hall, is nothing more than corruption and control for power. We need to end all this. We need to promote democracy and the ability for everybody to vote. I'm very confident that we will protect the voting rights that people, only citizens in this country are voting. I'm confident in that. But we are heading down a dangerous road of alienating and suppressing women and people of color and other minorities.
A follow-up question for that, Mr. Stocker. What specific measures would you support to strengthen public trust in the voting system without making registration harder?
Well, I'm confident in technology. I think the government should issue IDs for free. If you're that concerned of who's voting, then give them an ID. I don't want people that are of let's say, a Hispanic culture to be afraid to go vote. I met a gentleman the other night that didn't want to go vote, doesn't want to go out in public. He's afraid. He was seized on the streets. I have other friends at the gym that were rounded up by ICE, even though they've been here for 25 years and were hardworking citizens. What's going on in this country is an embarrassment, and it needs to stop and change.
Mr. Gies, what specific measures would you support to strengthen public trust in the voting system without making registration harder?
Certainly. So the problems with Democratic representation in America go back to, well, they're very old, but Citizens United poured gasoline on this fire by unleashing the forces of dark money to try to undermine our democracy in denominations of hundreds of billions, or sorry, millions of dollars poured into our elections by anonymous Republican contributors. The solution to that is term limits on the Supreme Court. We can do it, and we should do it. There are also solutions in legislation such as the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, which attempts to make voting safe and secure and accessible to all, because as Americans, we believe that everyone who's a citizen over the age of 18 should have the right to vote.
Thank you. Now, next question. Residents in Western New York are facing rising utility and living costs. How would you balance clean energy goals with affordability for working families? Mr. Gies.
So the causes of utility rise are complex, and there's not enough transparency from the Public Utilities Commission, and this is a place where I think the governor needs to be much more aggressive. I've been pleased to see Josh Riley, for example. If you want to see a congressman who's cooperating to make things happen in New York State, Josh Riley is pushing those utilities to be transparent. We need to modernize our grid. And we need to have more distributed energy. That is, we all need more ways to make our own electricity so that we can have the power to determine how much we pay and how much we use. But all of that has to be balanced. And what's going to throw it out of balance is building a bunch of multi-billion-dollar data centers that have collectively the hunger of 3 times what the power grid currently produces. We need a moratorium in New York State, and I would say federally, on the building of data centers so that we can modernize our grid and build out renewables without destroying our environment and our economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stoker. Soccer.
That's okay, we'll get it by the end of the night. You're not the only one. To address the affordability issue in this country, not only groceries and health insurance, but electricity and gas, I don't believe we should punish people to head in a direction financially. We should encourage them with financial incentives. Like I said earlier, Europe, China, they're ahead of us. We need to upgrade. I've seen the technology out there. We are going to have a solar roof on our vehicle. We are going to accumulate our own energy. The road will have solar material. We will be able to plug in and sell our electricity back to the grid and make money. We should have different options for energy, whether it's natural gas, which is cleaner for the environment, but eventually, without financially punishing American families, head in a direction so we're energy independent as a country, but also we have no utility costs. I do believe that's possible in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Stocker. Got that right. What is the role of Congress? What is the role in Congress of the declaration of war? Mr. Stocker.
Well, again, it's my understanding that Congress has that power, and they should take it back from President Trump. Again, when I was abroad, I had to apologize to people when they found out I was American. They asked me, what's going on in your country? I wrote a letter to for my son to go up through Canada, saying we will have better relationships in the future. This is not what we think of Canadians.
Thank you.
We have to, I got 30 more seconds.
Yeah, no.
We have to end the threats to other countries, the disrespect to other countries, end the wars with other countries. We need to be a country that engages in world peace and leadership like we did in the old days.
Thank you. Mr. Gies.
So after, some of us are old enough to remember 9/11, right? After 9/11, the Patriot Act was passed. And the Patriot Act passed a number of things that have proved really problematic, like the Department of Homeland Security. But another thing they did was they passed an authorization for the use of military force so that the president could deploy our armed forces without going to Congress for authorization. That authorization for the use of military force, the AUMF, has been re-voted on, renegotiated. Congress keeps kicking the can down the road. It is time to take away the AUMF and for Congress to reassert its role in declaring war and negotiating peace. The president is the public servant of the people through their representatives in Congress. He is not a king. He is not an emperor. And this, declaring wars wherever we want to, doing preemptive strikes in countries that were friendly before, this is unacceptable. And we can change it, and we should.
Thank you very much. What is your position on supporting working parents regarding child care costs? Mr. Gies.
First of all, let me say it's wonderful that I think that the governor and the state legislature are working on child care in New York State. New York State has a terrible dearth of child care, a lack. In Olean, I believe there are 3 kids at least for every available seat at a daycare. And that hurts those kids, right, who can't have that extra head start in life. But it also hurts their caregivers, right, who could otherwise do other things with their time. So we're hurting our own economy by not providing universal child care. We talk about the common good in this campaign, and this is a perfect example because when you provide things like this at public cost, the benefit expands exponentially, not linearly. We all benefit, even folks that don't have kids, from people having child care.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stocker.
My 2 sons are in college right now. I used to tell my wife it'd be cheaper to send our kids to Nichols Private School than it is to pay for daycare. When 2 parents, or even harder, a single parent raising a child, this goes back to the affordability issue. I would like to see government get involved where we create daycares at people's workplace and local by their house. This, to give a parent the comfort of knowing my child is with me at work and safe, and I can visit my child, and that connection, I think, would ease parents not only emotion and anxiety about going to work, but finances. So I would be for the government providing economic assistance to create these daycares in workplaces and also throughout the community. That makes it convenient for parents and children.
Thank you very much. Our region's economy is closely tied to Canada. What would you do to strengthen cross-border trade, tourism, and infrastructure while maintaining security? Mr. Stocker.
I alluded to it earlier. I wrote a letter for my son to take across the border that what's going on now is not what we stand for in this country. We love our Canadian neighbors. We respect their independence. We don't disrespect them. I look at my Ellicottville that I used to live in. The protests going on by disrespecting our Canadian neighbors is affecting their economy. I talked about it earlier. By disrespecting Canada, our greatest trading partner, how it's affecting trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in our economy. We need to change this. I personally would go on an apology tour. I would go to all our allies and say, your support and trade and respect is important to us. I would reach out to NATO and say, we are going to prevent the next World War III, and keeping NATO is important, I would reestablish these relationships that have been destroyed and deteriorated by this President administration.
Thank you. Mr. Gies.
So while I respect the sentiment, I think that an isolated member of Congress going on an apology tour or trying to engage with NATO would be counterproductive. I think what you need to do to restore our status in the world is to hold the President and his administration accountable for the things that they have done to damage our status in the world. Now, whether that's impeachment or whether it's international or whether it's post-elective office prosecuting for crimes such as tax code violations, whatever is going to be effective. But this is a perfect example of why we must push for accountability for the Trump administration, not for revenge, and not as some kind of theatrical distraction, but to address the harm so our allies can trust us again, so Canada would be willing to engage. If we can do that, then we could do wonderful things like strengthen the connections between our societies. It's very hard to take a train into Canada right now or to take a train from Canada into the United States. We could fix that, but only if they can trust us.
Perfect. Thank you. Would you support natural gas development in New York State? Mr. Gies.
So we're currently doing natural gas development in New York State, and you could not miss it if you tuned into Langworthy's talk radio shows where he takes calls, especially about natural gas. So what we're not doing is fracking, and we should not frack in New York State. But I am interested in enhanced geothermal, which uses fracking drills simply to get down where it's warm, and then you pump water in there. There's no fracking fluid, but you get unlimited heat, and you can use it to drive a turbine, or you can use it just to make your house warm. This is a way that we could re-employ a bunch of folks in Cattaraugus County, Allegheny, and elsewhere who currently work in fracking without continuing to destroy our irreplaceable environment.
Thank you.
Thank you. With respect to natural gas, a third cleaner for the environment. However, we need to protect our environment, and the government needs to get more involved if they do natural gas on protecting air, water, land. I've talked to people. I don't know that it can be done safely. I've talked to people in the southern tier that said they don't. Now, I've heard certain people say we need the heat to heat our houses in case we have electric failure. So I listen to people like that. I listen to people of the southern tier, but we also have to do it in a way that we're ensuring that it doesn't contaminate our water, our air, our land, things that are important to our farmers, for instance, also our drinking water supply. So I think we need to get more involved in looking at those issues and seeing what people in the southern tier would really like.
Thank you. Thank you very much. What role should the federal government play in addressing the opioid crisis in communities across Western New York? Mr. Stocker.
I think all of us as a country need to address this issue. When I was a former prosecutor for 15 years, there were so many good families that fell under this harsh condition where somebody got addicted in their family. I do believe, going back to our previous question with respect to health care, we need to invest and help families that are struggling with the pain pills that lead to a lot of times heroin. And again, it's good families. These are issues that face everybody, and it's rampant, and we need to work towards that. And also the mental health with respect to our healthcare system. We really have to invest in that, which again, I believe would help with our mass shootings.
Mr. Gies.
Yes, certainly. I think everyone knows somebody in this room who's directly affected by the opioid crisis, and we all see the marks of it on our communities. And I think there are a few important things that we can do. The first is, this is an important reason to fight for universal single-payer health care. Why did the opioid crisis happen? Because of profiteering from drug companies, especially the Sackler family. No one's been held accountable for this. right? We have begun to get a handle on it, but it is the public sector mopping up damage done by the private sector because of the profit motive. And universal health care, taking some of the profit motive out of health care would help address future crises like these, which we will see again. The other thing that we need to do as Congress, as local elected leaders, is to provide hope in these communities, right? To show that there is a path forward, that there are new ideas, that there is new development. This too can help.
Thank you. What would you do to end the war, Mr. Gies? How's that for a loaded question?
The most important thing Congress can do to end the war is to pass a war powers resolution, which would compel the president to wrap up the conflict within 30 days in order to provide for a dignified withdrawal, simply by refusing to fund the war beyond that date. Now, we all need to recognize that this is most likely going to be a humiliating defeat for America, because Iran is not going to give up its nuclear program, and it has shown that it can close the Strait of Hormuz whenever it wants, and so it's likely to toll the strait just like it was a canal. But that is an indignity that President Trump and his Republican enablers in Congress, like Nick Langworthy, have subjected us to. And Congress must pull in the reins and compel the president to come to the table and take what is coming to him.
Thank you. Mr. Stalker.
How to end the war. Which war? The one where we kidnap a president and steal their oil and their treasury? The one in Iran where we kill 166 school children? Where we threaten Canada, Mexico, Cuba, Greenland? I would start with a blue wave, impeach and remove, defund ICE, get rid of the mask, reestablish relationships. What does it mean to be a good, decent American here and around the world? It means the right kind of leadership. It goes back to the tan suit. We had the right kind of leadership. We had an agreement with Iran. We never had to do this. The right kind of leadership with decent American. So this is who we are, not what we are currently.
Thank you very much. How do you specifically plan on flipping New York 23, since it has a hang on one second while I look at this. Since it seems Republican and you're running against an incumbent, Mr. Stalker.
Thank you. People say it can't be done. It's too red, too much money. Elon Musk, $500 million. Negative Nancy, my first town hall a year ago in Owego. Can't be done. It can be done. I point to Kathy Hochul. I would go to people, and I am a proud Republican back over a decade ago. I fought for the environment, women's rights, protecting the environment. I plan on telling people who are Republicans and independents, I left over a decade ago, and this is why you have to follow me, because we have to change the direction this ship is going in. You have to fight for hardworking families and all the affordability issues. I believe, since I was never an embarrassed Republican, I was a maverick that took on the corrupt party bosses. I speak of my background, and I tell people why I left and became a proud Democrat over a decade ago. I can deliver that message and say, this is why I left, and I need 35% of you to follow me, 67% of independents. Kathy Hochul did it, I can do it.
Thank you. Mr. Gies.
Mr. Stalker is a maverick Republican, although back in 2012, as the Buffalo News reported, he did ask Nick Langworthy for support, and he only became a maverick after Nick Langworthy denied it. He became a Republican in September of 2017, under a decade ago. And since that time, he's run for office a number of times, and he's always been a self-funder. He says he doesn't like asking people for money. Let me tell you how to flip New York 23. You need to get 4 out of 10 independent and unaffiliated voters to vote for you, to vote for the Democrat. You don't do that with extreme language. You do it with a positive message. And you do it with an army behind you. You do it with hundreds and hundreds of volunteers. You do it by working on it full-time, by leaving your job, not by continuing to work in your job like Mr. Stalker has. And you raise money. You stop being embarrassed about it and you raise $2 million. That's what we need to do if we're going to get in their mailboxes, to get on their televisions. That is how to flip this district. That's what I intend to do.
Thank you. What sets you apart from other candidates, and why are you the best to represent Western New York? Mr. Gies.
Well, I think I just said it, but
Yeah.
let me say it more positively. First of all, I have time. I was just granted tenure at Bonaventure, but I am on unpaid leave for this calendar year so that I can devote all my time to this race. And my wife, who's here tonight, is working really hard. My son is working really hard to keep my hands free so that I can dedicate all my time. And you guys know that I have dedicated time. Over 100 public events, over 30,000 miles on my car, almost a year in the race already. Because I have people behind me. We've gained the endorsement of 5 counties, including Erie County, where 50% of the electorate lives. We've gained the endorsement of the Working Families Party, NYSET, and today the communication workers. We've gained the support of Citizen Action. We've already raised almost $200,000, and we're on our way to raising that $1.5 million to $2 million that it's going to take to flip the district. That is why I am the candidate to support.
Thank you. Mr. Stocker.
The professor's wrong. I took on Nick Langworthy's leadership back in 2012-14 when I was a Republican. I took on the corrupt party bosses in Albany. You remember Skelos, Silver, and Bruno all went to jail. Professor's wrong again. He was the Republican up to 2024. He has never, at a single event we've been at, ever talked about that. I am honest about my background. I'm proud of my background. I have nothing to apologize for. And when I became a Democrat over a decade ago, my values didn't change. They just aligned with the party that I belonged in better. So I'm the truthful one. I'm not misleading, and I'm glad to take on those issues. I've taken on millions of dollars of attack ads and defeated Nick Langworthy's candidate when he was the Republican leader of New York State and Erie County. So I know it can be done. I would tell those Republican voters and independents why you have to follow the direction I'm going, because it's in your best interest.
I'd like to respond to that, claim that I'm a secret Republican.
30 seconds.
Certainly. So like lots of people, I originally registered as the party of my parents, who were Republicans. My politics were muted. I worked in churches and classrooms. I always tried to vote for the best candidate that I thought would support the common good. That was not Trump, so I've been anti-Republican from 2015 on. There is public evidence of that. I donated to Joe Biden. I voted for Hillary Clinton and all the general election candidates, and I worked for Kamala Harris and down ballot candidates like Tom Carl. Somebody tried to sick dogs on me in McKean County knocking doors for Kamala. I have fought the fight with you. I'm a proud Democrat. These are my values.
Thank you very much. Well, now you get a chance for a 1-minute closing statement, and we'll begin with Mr. Stocker.
Thank you for the opportunity. I want to, for some reason, people keep reaching out to me. Elizabeth, when I was going door to door, said, "You remind me of John Kennedy." And she said, "I want you to keep this Kennedy coin in your pocket at all times and remember the people." The people, a couple dropped off another Kennedy book regarding Bobby. It said, again, remind what's important, fight for the rights of people, especially those less fortunate that don't have the same opportunities. I am not a Kennedy. I'm Kevin. I tell people I'm Kevin from Kenton. I grew up in Kenmore and Tonawanda. I am a proud public sector school kid, but I'm a person that when you fall down, you get back up and you fight. And you keep fighting until you win. And sometimes you don't win the first time, but you gotta keep getting. That's what all of us in this room know. Life knocks you down, you gotta have the ability to persevere, get up. That's what I promise to do for you.
Thank
you
you.
will have my home
Thank
phone
you.
number, and I will fight for you.
Thank you, Mr. Gies.
I'm running because this corrupt, insider politics way of running things, this subsidizing corporations in hopes that they will somehow have mercy on us and make our lives a little bit better, has not worked. It's been over 50 years of trickle-down economics and bailouts and tax cuts for the rich and corporations, and Trump has just turbocharged it all. I am running because this has left our working families and rural communities in the dust, and our working families are struggling to afford groceries and gas and health care, and it's unacceptable. But this is not an anti-campaign. I am running because we want to reclaim the common good, the good that expands exponentially, not linearly. And I am fighting for a future where the government is again transparent and accountable and focused on making a good life affordable for everyone. That is possible. Other democratic countries are run this way. We can do it. Join me. We can make it happen here in Western New York.
Thank you very much. Thank you for holding your applause till the end. I just have a few more words, then you can applaud again. So I want to thank our candidates for making the effort to be here tonight. I want to thank Mary Croxton, who is voter service chair of the League of Women Voters, for putting this together. And it's not easy to do, putting together one of these debates. And I want to thank Jack Croxton, her sidekick. And I want to thank Ray Dye, who's a young man that was up front handing out the cards to you. I want to thank you all very much and thank this venue. It was a lovely place to have a debate. I want to remind you that there is early voting for the primary, and it is in the Jackson Center and the Chautauqua County Fairgrounds. It starts June 13th and goes through the 21st. And then there's a day off for us, and then you vote on the 23rd at your normal polling site. Just a reminder, especially here, that Wheelock is no longer a polling site. You go to Harvest Chapel if you've gone to Wheelock in the past, Wheelock schools. So I want to thank you all. Don't forget to vote. Have a great evening. Thank you all for coming out on this not a nice day. Thank you very much. One more thing. You can watch the debate on YouTube or www.fredoniacableaccess.com. Okay, thank you very much.